minuscule amount compared to public education, and there are people, they're Iowa citizens, taxpayers, voters, and so on too, and they have a different opinion than what you have.
They get
and
tax credits.
They're entitled to some respect and some consideration also, that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And I don't know what the amounts, if something like that, I don't know if it's gonna happen, number one, but if it does, I don't know what the amounts will be, but, I don't know that it's bad to have some competition. I know a lot of people don't like that when it comes to education, but, most places, the competition doesn't.
So then may I ask a
Thank
connected
you, police
question?
officers, you go out
Last
for the
week,
service.
you stated that you were not in favor of raising the gas tax because that money would be spent in cities and stay there and not be spent in the counties and secondary roads where your constituents live and where we need the funding. Effectively, not adequately funding public education or education period and creating education savings accounts would also do the same thing. It would strangle those small rural schools that are not as able as larger and more urban schools to weather these budget shortfalls. It would strangle them. So how is that serving the needs of, Southeast Warren or I-35 school district?
Well, every school, from your analysis, if you assume that whatever we do comes out of education, every school their budget would not increase whatever that little amount was. So it would affect every school a little bit, tiny little bit. I don't know that it's gonna tip the balance, so Southeast Warren, for example, did they suffer more than other schools?
I think we can agree that Southeast Warren is operating on a much more razor-thin edge than Indianola Community School District. I mean, simply put,
Well,
that
you would
is
think.
so.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the impact will be felt greater by these small rural
But
schools.
using your analysis, which I say, the money just comes out of the general fund, or if you wanna say that education would bear a big chunk of it, since that's 55% of the budget, but it would be a proportion. It wouldn't be like everybody loses, I don't know what, $100,000 or whatever, the fifth year, I don't know what the number would be.
2 or 3 million.
But Southeast Warren and your state 35 and whatever, they would lose the same proportion as Indianola. The dollars would be much less, but they're operating on a smaller budget. So I don't know how that works out. If that disproportionately affects smaller schools or not, I don't know.
Can you state again, you believe that it's a good thing to have competition between the private sector and our public schools? Is that what you just
I
said?
think that's a good idea.
Okay, good, I just want to make sure.
But that's unfair, because, for example, a parochial school, I know students that were not allowed to attend Dowling Catholic for a variety of reasons, and then they showed up at North High School where I taught. And I think you are underestimating how much people believe in the public schools in Iowa if you think that this is a solution. Because we very much need to have good public schools, whether it be North High School or Valley of West Des Moines, they need to be good schools. And the other thing, there are two things that I wrote down on my little sheet here. I am astounded at both the national and at the state level, where Republicans are now in the majority, that you seem totally unprepared to be in the majority. Like, oh, we never thought this would happen. We're always gonna be in the minority. And the other thing is, I always remember my dad said, he didn't just say it in April, he said it throughout the year. It's an honor to pay taxes. And I think that's where your party is letting down our state. If there's a problem, I think you'd be surprised that there are quite a few people, not only Democrats, but Republicans, who would say, it's okay, I can pay more. But I do think we have to watch out for people who are getting tremendous tax credits and paying little or no taxes. That's offensive, whether it be on the national level, or on the state level, or on the local level. That just doesn't seem fair to Americans. So let's be fair. Don't get out of your mind the idea that they need a choice. If they want a choice in terms of schools, they can pay for it. But don't take the money away from the public schools, where everybody should have the right to succeed and begin a new life if they've had a life like some of the kids I knew at North High. That's crazy.
I want to kind of go off of that a little bit more on the public school system, because I've heard this talked about at the state and the federal level, and that scares the crap out of me, to be honest. We've got this bucket of money, we want to call it the budget, and, you know, however you want to word it is where that money comes from. There is a part that's allocated to education. We take some of that money away, and we let people make their own decisions with it. I understand your point, there's people that want to do that. As a citizen of the country and somebody that lives in this state, there's all kinds of services that I don't feel like I want to use or that I could use. There's people that don't have kids that still pay into that budget. We set a dangerous precedent there that says, well, I haven't used the ambulance service, so why should I pay for that? Maybe we should privatize that. I think there's things that we need to keep in mind, that we all need to accept, that things that are for the public good should remain under the public control. And if you choose to work outside of that system, that's your prerogative, but you can't drain those services, even if it is just that sliver. That sliver's a lot.
And I would like to piggyback on these two. What happens to the people that already go to private school and parochial schools? Do they get money for going there then? Because where's that coming from? Is that fair?
They get tax credits. And public school pays for, textbooks, for example.
Okay, but let's just say we're gonna allot our $6,000 for this student. They get a ticket to that school. What about all those kids that are sitting in that classroom already? Don't they all get $6,000 for it?
And can
That's what
private
they're
schools,
saying. This is insane, because that's gonna cost a fortune.
and cannot private schools discriminate
Yes.
based on
Yes.
gender,
Disability,
religion, disability,
Yep.
all those other things? Do you think it's
Yeah.
fair to compete, but only as far as the private sector can say, I don't want any student that doesn't perform at A levels, and all the B, C, and D students can go to private schools? So you think that that's a good way to set up our system?
And I've taught in parochial school too, and they aren't even equipped to deal with disabilities. They send them to the public school because they can't do it.
They don't
It's
have
not their fault.
If the dollars followed the student, the parents could send them anywhere they wanted to. If they wanted to send them to private schools, if they wanted to send them to charter schools, the money would follow the student. And competition, I'm an educator. I'm a classroom teacher and I'm a retired educator. I think competition is good. I think in education, we've been led to be a social institution, and I think that's hurt our public schools because we've got students in there that don't want to learn. Maybe they should go to a charter school or a private school. Let the parents send them where they want to go.
The problem with private and charter schools is they get to choose who their students are. The public school doesn't have a choice about who comes in their door.
That's right.
We educate everyone. And a public charter school, they have a lottery. Some get in, some don't get in. How is that even a level playing field?
Well, it isn't. You need to respect other people's choices too.
They can spend their taxes.
They are, they're paying their tax and plus. Another tuition, or whatever it may be.
What they choose.
That's their choice.
It's such a, I don't think you can say, well, that sure hurt the parents. That's such a small amount in comparison to the overall budget that goes to the
Well,
public
we know how it's
schools.
happening on the east and the west coast, and I imagine it's creeping its way into Iowa, but that's going to happen eventually. And you know what about it? I want to send my child to a private school, parochial school, and they said, sorry, we're not gonna take you. We're not gonna take you. So, I don't know, I mean, it's just like, there's not.
If there's public dollars that should go with the student, then the private institutions that accept them shouldn't be allowed to discriminate.
That's right.
Here's the thing though, you talk about competition. So when I was younger, when I was a child, my mom and dad didn't have a lot of money, and they wanted to send me to a Christian school, so they sent me to a Christian school. Believe it or not, they found funding through Christian programs to send me to that school. So there's funding there, right? And then they took me out of that Christian school. Why? Because actually the rules were in the Christian school, and I ended up going to public school and graduated from public school. Now, also on another perspective, my children are all grown. I pay my taxes, and I don't have a problem paying taxes. Why? Because it educates the children. It educates everybody's children. If people want them to go to a charter school or a private school, then you need to find a way to get your kids to those. Or, if you're going to do something, which I really am against you doing anything, you need to make sure that the private schools and the charter schools have to follow the same rules as public education does.
Yes, absolutely.
The same rules. So you need to think about that when you're looking at these bills.
Would you agree with that? That they should follow the same rules?
Different schools have different rules.
Not if
No.
they use public funds.
Not in the public school system. They have different policies, but they have rules through the state that they have to follow. Whether they like it or not, they have to follow those rules.
Yeah, that's right.
Getting state funds.
So you agree that if they have public funds, they should have to follow the same rules? Not necessarily school policy, but state level rules
And federal.
and federal level rules as the public schools.
Well, I'm not gonna make a blanket statement.
I'm perfectly fine making a blanket statement.
Well, if you're
Well, if
advocating
there's-
for kids, you would say that. If you're not for the teachers, not for the teachers' unions, then you would say, yes, I care about that student. I want to make sure they're getting the best that they possibly can be. And part of that is making sure everyone's held accountable, whatever school they go to.
Let's just say the Disability Act. Students with disabilities.
Yeah.
If students with disabilities can't get into a private school because they aren't equipped for it, but that school accepts private or public money, how is that fair to that student?
It's not.
It's not.
Now.
And it's not
that
fair
is
to the
what-
taxpayer
let's
either.
use that as an example. You said which rule? Let's use that one as an example. If we have public funds going to, say, Dowling Catholic, just as an example, I don't know if it does, but Dowling Catholic isn't prepared to handle a kid with severe autism. Should that kid be denied access to to Dowling Catholic because they can't handle him? So then he has to go to a public school who still has to accommodate him,
Which costs way less money.
but they no longer get the money that, I mean,
Well,
the pot is smaller.
they're still getting the bulk.
They're getting his money, but the pot is smaller.
Private school stuff it's not directly funded out of state funds. A lot of it is, well, number one, just the parents paying, but they do get there are some credits available, but it's still their money and they're the ones that decide to a great extent. And I just don't begrudge them, if they wanna spend their money
Right.
to have a
I agree.
private school.
They should. They should be allowed to do that.
That's their
If
money,
they wanna spend private money, but public money,
Well,
public
We're
money.
not getting public
public
money.
money.
That's
Well,
their proposal. Yes, that's their proposal.
But they're.
That's her proposal.
the proposal to have charter schools
And private.
would have public money going to the charter school.
And they, a charter
That's
school
what
would
they're
be
trying to
subject
do.
to rules and regulations too.
They would be subject to those rules and
But
regulations.
usually the point of the charter school is to give an alternative and a choice. They wouldn't necessarily be operating under the same rules as other public schools. If they were,
They should be.
It should be
there's no
though.
point in having a charter school.
If they're
It's
getting
gonna be
public
exactly the
dollars,
same
they
thing.
need to follow the American Disabilities Act.
Charter school may not have a football and basketball team.
But that's
But
where
state
we're-
But we're talking about, for example, a federal law, the Americans
Then
with
they can go back to
Disabilities.
public school
Yes.
and do that anyway.
I don't care if a public school wants to have a football team or a swimming team or a golf team or a basketball team. I don't care if they want to have that. That's the student and the parent's choice if they want to go there. But if that student is not physically or mentally allowed in that school, then that is the problem I have. And that is the kind of regulation that should be broad. It should be all encompassing. If it's a charter school or a public school,
Okay.
there shouldn't be something that is not the child's choice that limits them from going there.
Well, I'm sure they have to comply with federal law.
No, they
No.
don't. No, they do not.
You say, no, they don't.
No,
It must not, the federal law must not cover it then.
no.
That
Because it's
is-
private. Private.
Senator,
What I said
that
was they have
is
to
the
follow
problem.
federal